Hi there. I wanted to talk tonight about panic attacks. For people who don't have them, they can kind of get an idea of what a panic attack is really like. I'll give you three examples because I've had definitely at least three, but these are ones that come to mind right away. The first one was I was about 20 years old, and it was just I had this awful feeling come over me, and I thought I was having a heart attack. I mean, my chest was getting really kind of crushed in feeling, and I drove myself to Foot Hospital. This was in Jackson, Michigan, and I drove myself there, and I went right into the emergency room, and I said, "I think I'm having a heart attack." And they hooked me up to EKGs, and they said, "Your heart is fine." And they said, "It looks like you just had a panic attack." And I really didn't know why for sure. It seemed really odd. I've always been I was supposedly a real common sense person, but I did have some problems, some big problems actually going through life. And I'll tell you all of them in different videos. But anyway, that was the first one. The second one was pretty hilarious. I was in college, and I was going to a Catholic college. Not that I was Catholic, it's just affiliated. And they were having a recital, and I was supposed to sing the first song in the recital, and I was supposed to do the finale, which was a piano piece. Well, the song was a German aria, and I didn't like it at all, and I didn't practice it that much. So I went into it kind of not confident. And the finale was a piece that was really too hard for me to play. Why they let me choose those? I didn't choose the German aria, but I did choose the piano piece as a challenge, but it was too hard for me. So I was not confident at all. So I started singing, first up, and I start singing, and I get to the end of the second line, and all of a sudden everything just became kind of dizzy, blurry, and I started swaying like this, and all of a sudden my hands curled over like this. They were just hard in front of me, and I mean, can you imagine the audience seeing somebody just kind of stop and sway and then have their hands like curl up? And I just said into the mic, "Excuse me, I think I'm going to faint." And I didn't faint. Two nuns were in the front row, and they jumped up and they grabbed one on each side of me, and they walked me down all those rows of people out the doors into this long corridor with these beautiful arches. I just remember there were gorgeous arches, and they walked me up and down that corridor a couple of times until I settled down and my hands came back, and stopped cramping up, and the feeling came back. And then they sat me in the back row and let me recuperate a little more. And I was just sitting there, just, something like that when you hyperventilate so much that you do like lose, I don't know if it's the oxygen or the the carbon dioxide. I always get mixed up which it is, but something left my system enough that it caused the severe cramping. And I just wasn't even thinking about what was going on, because I was like, you're drained after something like that. And somebody came up to me and said, "Are you going to do the finale? Are you still going to be able to play the piano?" And I hadn't even thought of that. It was like, "No, I can't do that." And I felt kind of good because I could get out of it that way. But yeah, it brought some disappointment, shall we say, shame upon my parents in a way. I mean, they were ashamed of me a little bit. Oh, I remember the word, disgusted. But I was having a panic attack, and I didn't recognize it as such. Um, and the last one was, I was much older here. I was probably in my 50s and a little more familiar with what was going on. And we were having a Christmas party where we were all seated in chairs, and we were going around saying what we were thankful for, even though it was Christmas. Um, and I was just noticing it was like I really wanted to say something just real simple. It was just a simple, lovely little thing. and I was waiting my turn. And as we went down and down, coming down toward me, I was getting more and more nervous. My hands started sweating, and my breathing was getting, quicker. And by the time it was my turn, I was just like a mess. And of course, the whole thing was being videoed, of course. And so I started talking about I was thankful for the beauty of life, the unexpected beauty. I was trying to tie it into something deep, and the unexpected beauty of looking out the window, and there was a red cardinal against the white winter snow. But I didn't get that far because I just kind of like broke down in tears. And I remember because I just couldn't get it out. I was just crying. And I remember looking right at Alan. My husband was the person videoing, and I said, "Alan, help me." And that was me trying to say, "I am having an attack right now. Help me." And of course, he didn't. He just kept filming. And so later on, they all said that. Well, that just one person kind of was telling everyone that I had been captured by the Holy Spirit. And I said, if that's the Holy Spirit, I want nothing to do with that, because the Holy Spirit, I guess you should be pretty happy, oh, the Holy Spirit, woo, and I was just miserable. It's a miserable feeling to have an attack like that. And I told them, I said, no, that was a panic attack. You saw a panic attack right there. But they didn't believe me because they wanted it to be the Holy Spirit. So, you gotta love it sometimes. But anyway, that's three. I will talk in depth about chronic hyperventilation syndrome and explain a whole lot about it so that everybody will have a deep understanding of it. But I just wanted to tell those stories tonight just for the heck of it. Have a good evening. Don't have a panic attack because they're miserable.